Some friendships are not meant to last forever, and that can be painful to accept, because when a friendship fades, we often assume something went wrong. Maybe we failed, maybe they stopped caring, maybe the connection was not real, maybe we were naive for trusting it. But what if the end of a friendship does not always mean failure? What if some friendships are meant for a season, a place, a transition, a chapter? What if they were real, meaningful, and important, even if they were never meant to follow us for the rest of our lives? Today, we are talking about chapter friendships, especially the kind that often happen at work. The colleague you laughed with every day, the person you had coffee with between meetings, the one who understood the stress of that job, that boss, that deadline, that season of life, the one who knew a version of you that maybe no one else knew. And then one day, someone changes jobs, someone moves away, someone gets promoted, someone has a child, someone starts a new relationship, someone becomes too busy, and slowly, the friendship becomes quieter, not because it was fake, not because it meant nothing, but because the shared world that created it no longer exists. By the end of this video, you will understand why some friendships fade after major life transitions, why workplace friendships can feel so intense, and how to let go without turning the ending into proof that the relationship failed. Because sometimes a friendship was not meant to be a lifetime friendship. Sometimes it was meant to carry you through a chapter, and that chapter still mattered. Let's begin. Think about the people you became close to at work. Maybe you did not choose them the way you choose friends outside of work. They were simply there. Same office, same schedule, same meetings, same pressure, same complaints, same lunch break, same inside jokes, same Monday exhaustion, same Friday relief. At first, they were just a colleague. Then they became familiar, then comfortable, then important. This is how many workplace friendships begin. Not with a dramatic emotional connection, but with repeated contact. You see someone again and again. You exchange small comments. You complain about the same problem. You help each other survive stressful days. You slowly build trust through small moments. And over time, the ordinary becomes intimate. A 5-minute chat becomes a ritual. A shared coffee becomes emotional support. A joke becomes a private language. A stressful project becomes a bonding experience. Psychologically, this makes sense. Human beings bond through proximity, repetition, and shared context. We often become close to people we see regularly, not only because they are perfectly compatible with us, but because life puts us in the same rhythm. Repeated contact creates familiarity. Familiarity creates comfort. Comfort can create trust, and trust can become friendship. This is why workplace friendships can feel so strong. You are not just talking, you are living parallel daily lives. You experience the same pressure at the same time. You understand what outsiders do not understand. When you tell someone outside of work about a difficult manager, a chaotic meeting, or a strange office culture, they may listen, but they do not fully get it. The colleague does. They were there. They saw the look. They heard the tone. They know the history. They understand the tension without needing a full explanation. That kind of shared reality can create a powerful bond. It feels relieving to be understood without having to translate your experience. This is one of the emotional gifts of workplace friendship. It gives you companionship inside a system that can often feel impersonal. Work can be stressful, competitive, repetitive, or emotionally draining. A friend at work can make it feel human. They become the person who helps you regulate your nervous system during the day. You vent, you laugh, you decompress. You feel less alone. Sometimes, that person becomes the reason the job feels bearable. You may even think, I do not know how I would get through this place without them. And for that chapter of your life, that may be completely true. But here is the difficult part. Some friendships are held together not only by emotional compatibility, but by environment. When the environment changes, the relationship is tested. If the shared context disappears, the friendship may weaken, not because it was fake, because the structure that supported it has changed. This is where many people feel confused. You leave the job. You promise to stay in touch. At first, you do. You text. You meet once. You send memes. You say, we need to catch up soon. But then life moves. The daily contact is gone. The shared stress is gone. The office gossip is gone. The automatic rhythm is gone. Now the friendship requires intentional effort. And sometimes, without the workplace holding it together, you realize the friendship does not naturally continue. That realization can hurt. It can feel like rejection. It can feel like abandonment. It can feel like proof that you cared more than they did. But sometimes, what you are grieving is not only the person. You are grieving the shared world, the routine, the version of yourself you were in that place, the feeling of being known in that specific context, the small rituals that gave your day emotional texture. This is why the end of a workplace friendship can feel strangely deep. even if you were never best friends outside the office, even if you did not share every part of your life, even if the friendship was built around lunches, jokes, messages, and daily survival. It still mattered because it belonged to your everyday life. And when everyday connection disappears, the nervous system notices. A friendship does not need to be lifelong to be emotionally significant. A person does not need to stay forever to have changed something in you. That is one of the central truths of chapter friendships. They are temporary, but not meaningless. They are limited, but not shallow. They are situational, but not fake. They belong to a particular time in your life, and that time mattered. Before we continue, if this topic speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. We talk about relationships, emotional patterns, attachment, self-awareness, and the quiet psychological experiences many people feel but rarely say out loud. If you have ever lost a friendship and wondered whether it meant nothing because it ended, this video is for you. Now, let's talk about why transitions change friendships so deeply. A major life transition does not only change your schedule, it changes your identity. Changing jobs, moving cities, becoming a parent, ending a relationship, starting a business, going through grief, recovering from burnout, or entering a new phase of life can shift what you need, what you value, and how much emotional energy you have. Friendships are not separate from life conditions. They live inside them. If two people once had the same routine, they may drift when their routines no longer overlap. If two people once shared the same stress, they may drift when one person leaves that stress behind. If two people once had the same emotional availability, they may drift when one person enters a demanding season. This can happen without betrayal, without conflict, without any dramatic ending. The friendship just becomes harder to maintain. Messages become slower. Plans become vague. Calls become rare. And eventually, you realize the connection has changed. Many people struggle with this because they believe real friendship should survive everything. We have a romantic idea of friendship. We think that if a friendship is real, it should stay close no matter what. No distance should weaken it. No life change should affect it. No lack of contact should matter. But human relationships are more complex than that. Some friendships are strong enough to survive long distance, different lifestyles, and long gaps in communication. Others are not. And that does not mean they were not real. It means they were built for a different kind of closeness. Some friendships are identity friendships. They are based on shared values, deep emotional knowledge, and long-term commitment. Others are context friendships. They are based on shared environment, routine, and daily proximity. Both can be meaningful, but they function differently. A context friendship may be perfect inside a specific setting and fragile outside of it. A workplace friend may understand your professional stress better than anyone, but outside that world, you may not have enough shared life to sustain the bond. That can feel sad, but it is not necessarily wrong. It is simply a different category of connection. One of the problems is that we often use only one definition of friendship. We think friendship means lifetime loyalty, constant closeness, deep emotional access, and permanent presence. But in real life, friendships come in many forms. There are lifelong friends. There are crisis friends. There are creative friends. There are work friends. There are travel friends. There are healing friends. There are party friends. There are spiritual friends. There are friends who help you become brave. There are friends who sit with you in sadness. There are friends who make one difficult year easier. There are friends who only make sense in one city, one office, one school, one season, one version of you, and that does not make them less valuable. It makes them specific. The pain begins when we demand lifetime meaning from a chapter relationship. We ask it to become something it was never built to be. We look at the ending and say, if it ended, it must not have mattered. But that is not how life works. A chapter in a book matters even if it is not the final chapter. A teacher matters even if they are not in your life forever. A place matters even if you move away. A season matters even if it ends. A friendship can matter deeply and still belong to the past. This is not easy to accept, especially if you have abandonment wounds. If you have experienced rejection, neglect, emotional inconsistency, or sudden loss, the fading of a friendship may trigger old pain. Your mind may create harsh stories. They never cared. I was just convenient. I always lose people. I am forgettable. People only like me when I am useful. These thoughts can feel true, but they may not be accurate. Sometimes, the friendship faded because life changed, not because you were worthless, not because the connection was fake, not because you imagined the bond, but because the conditions that kept the friendship alive disappeared. This distinction is important for emotional healing. There is a difference between abandonment and transition. Abandonment involves disregard, neglect, or emotional harm. Transition involves change, distance, and shifting circumstances. Both can hurt, but they do not mean the same thing. If you interpret every transition as abandonment, you will carry more pain than the situation requires. You may become resentful. You may chase people who are simply moving into another life stage. You may blame yourself for every drift. You may become afraid to value relationships unless they promise forever. But not every meaningful connection can promise forever, and expecting every friendship to last a lifetime can make natural endings feel like personal failure. This is why the idea of chapter friendships can be so healing. It gives us another language. Instead of saying, "We failed to stay friends," you can say, "We shared an important chapter." Instead of saying, "They left me behind," you can say, "Our lives stopped overlapping." Instead of saying, "It meant nothing," you can say, "It meant something then." Instead of saying, "I lost them," you can say, "That friendship belonged to a version of life I no longer live." This does not remove all sadness, but it reduces shame. It reduces the feeling that an ending must be evidence of failure. It allows you to honor the friendship without needing to force it into the present. Let's take an example. Imagine two people who become very close at work. They sit near each other. They complain about the same manager. They support each other through stressful deadlines. They share lunch almost every day. They know each other's moods. They laugh at the same absurd situations. For 3 years, they are important to each other. Then one person leaves for another company. At first, they stay in touch. Then less. Then birthdays are the only messages. Then even those fade. Was the friendship fake? No, it was real inside the world that created it. But once that world disappeared, the friendship did not have the same oxygen. That does not erase the comfort they gave each other. It does not erase the laughter. It does not erase the emotional support. It does not erase the days they made easier. It simply means the friendship served its purpose in that chapter. This is a mature way to understand relationships, not cold, not detached, but realistic and compassionate, because when we demand permanence from every bond, we may overlook the beauty of temporary connection. Some people arrive at exactly the right time. They help us survive something. They reflect something back to us. They make us feel less alone. They teach us a lesson. They give us courage. They make a place feel warmer. Then life moves, and they move with it. That can be sad and beautiful at the same time. Now let's talk about why letting go is so difficult. Letting go of a friendship often hurts because it touches identity. Friends are not just people we like. They are mirrors. They reflect who we were during a certain time. A workplace friend may remember the version of you who was ambitious, burned out, hopeful, insecure, funny, frustrated, overworked, or trying to prove yourself. When that friendship fades, it can feel like losing access to that version of yourself. This is why you may feel nostalgic even if you do not want the friendship back in the same way. You miss who you were together. You miss the rhythm. You miss the world. You miss the version of life that made the connection natural. Nostalgia is not always a sign you should return. Sometimes it is simply grief for a completed chapter. Another reason letting go is hard is that many friendships do not have clear endings. Romantic relationships often have a breakup conversation. Not always, but often. Friendships usually fade quietly. There is no official ending, no final conversation, no explanation, no closure, just less contact, less effort, less emotional presence. This ambiguity can be painful. The mind wants a clear story. Did I do something wrong? Are they upset? Should I reach out? Do they still care? Are we still friends? When there is no clear answer, the mind keeps searching. This is why faded friendships can stay emotionally active for a long time. They are unfinished in our minds. But sometimes closure does not come from the other person. Sometimes closure comes from your own interpretation. You can say, "This friendship mattered. It changed. I do not need to turn it into a wound. I can be grateful and sad. I can let it be complete." That is a powerful form of closure. Not because it denies pain, but because it stops turning pain into self-blame. Now, does this mean we should never fight for friendships? No, some friendships are worth repairing. Some deserve a conversation. Some need effort, honesty, and reconnection. Letting go does not mean passivity. It means discernment. Ask yourself, is this friendship fading because we are both busy, but the connection still feels alive? Is there mutual care? When we reconnect, does it feel natural? Do both people make some effort? Do I feel respected? Do I want to continue this friendship from who I am now, not only because of who we used to be? If the answer is yes, it may be worth reaching out. Send the message. Plan the coffee. Be honest. Say, "I miss our friendship." Some friendships do survive transitions when both people choose to carry them into the next chapter. But if you are the only one reaching, the only one initiating, the only one remembering, the only one trying to recreate a world that no longer exists, then the friendship may be asking to be released. Not angrily, not dramatically, but gently. A healthy friendship does not have to be perfectly equal every week, but over time, there should be some mutual movement. If there is none, you may be holding a memory, not a current relationship, and that is okay to recognize. One of the most painful parts of growing older is learning that not every bond can come with us. But one of the most freeing parts of growing older is learning that this does not make love meaningless. We can value people without owning them forever. We can appreciate connection without demanding permanence. We can grieve change without calling it betrayal. We can let people belong to our story without requiring them to appear in every future chapter. This is emotional maturity. It allows gratitude and grief to exist together. Now let's return to workplace friendships specifically. Workplace friendships teach us something profound about human connection. They show us how deeply routine shapes attachment. You may think you became close because of deep compatibility, and sometimes that is true, but often you also became close because the structure of work created repeated opportunities for connection. Same hours, same space, same problems, same emotional weather. This does not make the friendship less real. It simply shows how environment helps create bonds. It is similar to school friendships. Many childhood or university friendships feel intense because you share a world every day. Then life separates people, different cities, different jobs, different relationships, different responsibilities. Some friendships adapt, others fade. Again, the fading does not erase the meaning. It tells us that context was part of the bond. In the workplace, this can be even stronger because adult life often lacks easy social repetition. As adults, we do not always have natural spaces for friendship. We are busy, we are tired, we have responsibilities. Work becomes one of the few places where we repeatedly see the same people. So when a work friendship ends, it may also reveal a deeper loneliness. You may not only miss that person, you may miss having someone built into your day. You may miss casual connection. You may miss being seen without scheduling it. You may miss spontaneous laughter. You may miss the ease of not having to plan friendship. This is important because sometimes the solution is not to chase the old friendship. Sometimes the solution is to create new spaces for connection, new routines, new communities, new rituals, new people who fit the chapter you're in now. Letting go of a chapter friendship makes room for present life friendship, but only if you allow yourself to stop living emotionally in the old chapter. This does not mean forgetting. It means updating. Your life is different now. Your needs may be different. Your energy may be different. Your values may be different. The people who fit your old life may not automatically fit your current one, and that can be healthy. Growth changes social alignment. Sometimes, the people we lose are not bad people. They simply belong to a former version of our life. And sometimes, we belong to a former version of theirs. This perspective can soften resentment. Instead of asking, why did they leave? You might ask, what chapter did we share? Instead of asking, why did this not last? You might ask, what did this friendship give me while it was here? Maybe it gave you laughter during a hard job. Maybe it gave you confidence. Maybe it helped you feel less invisible. Maybe it showed you that you could connect again after loneliness. Maybe it helped you survive burnout. Maybe it taught you what kind of friendship you want more of. Maybe it taught you what kind of friendship you no longer want. A friendship can end and still leave gifts behind. Those gifts are real. Now, how do we actually let go? First, name the friendship honestly. You can say, this was a chapter friendship, not as an insult, not as a downgrade, as a recognition. It was meaningful in a specific time and context. Second, allow grief without dramatizing the story. You are allowed to be sad. You are allowed to miss them. You are allowed to feel disappointed, but try not to immediately turn sadness into accusation. Sadness says, this mattered. Accusation says, someone must be guilty. Sometimes no one is guilty. Sometimes life changed. Third, stop testing them silently. Many people do this. They stop reaching out and wait to see if the other person notices. They post things hoping the person reacts. They measure care by response time. They build resentment without conversation. If you want clarity, communicate. If you want to reconnect, reach out directly. If you do not want to reconnect, let the silence be silence. But do not torture yourself with hidden tests. Fourth, preserve the meaning. You do not have to delete every memory to move on. You can keep the good. You can smile at the inside jokes. You can appreciate the role they played. You can be grateful without reopening the relationship. Gratitude is not the same as attachment. Fifth, invest in current connections. Letting go becomes harder when your present life is emotionally empty. If one faded friendship becomes the symbol of all belonging, the loss feels enormous. So build new rhythms. Join something. Message someone. Create recurring plans. Invite people into your current life. Friendship needs structure. Do not wait for connection to magically appear. Create repeated contact. That is how many bonds begin. Sixth, forgive yourself for caring. Sometimes we feel embarrassed when we miss someone who may not miss us the same way. But caring is not humiliating. It means you are capable of attachment. It means the friendship mattered to you. You do not need to punish yourself for having a heart. The goal is not to care less. The goal is to care with more freedom, to care without clinging, to remember without collapsing, to release without bitterness. Now, let's talk about a final truth. Some friendships return. Not all chapter friendships are permanently gone. Sometimes people drift because life becomes busy. Then years later, the connection returns in a different form. You meet again, you laugh again, you realize the bond still has life, but it is not the same friendship. It has changed because both of you have changed. That can be beautiful. A friendship does not have to remain constant to remain meaningful. It can become lighter, less frequent, more mature, more spacious. Some friendships are not daily friendships anymore, but they are still warm when you meet. Some become annual check-ins. Some become quiet goodwill. Some become memories that no longer hurt. Letting go does not always mean closing the door forever. It means no longer standing at the door waiting. That is the difference. You release the demand that the friendship must return to its old shape. If it comes back, it can come back honestly. If it does not, you are still free. This is how we grow. We learn that not every goodbye is a failure. Not every fading is rejection. Not every ending invalidates the beginning. Some people were companions for a road you no longer walk, and that companionship was still real. Maybe the most healing sentence is this: it was meaningful, even though it ended. Say that about the colleague who made work bearable. Say it about the friend from a former city. Say it about the person who helped you through one difficult year. Say it about the bond that faded without a fight. Say it about the friendship that belonged to a version of you who was still becoming. It was meaningful, even though it ended. That sentence gives dignity to temporary love. And friendships are a form of love. Not always romantic, not always dramatic, but still love. Shared attention, shared humor, shared survival, shared ordinary days, shared understanding. Those things matter, even if they do not last forever. So if you're grieving a friendship that faded, try not to reduce it to failure. Maybe it was a chapter. Maybe it helped you through a season. Maybe it gave you exactly what it could give. Maybe it ended not because it lacked meaning, but because its meaning was complete. Life is made of chapters, and not everyone can stay for the whole book. Some people appear in one chapter and change the tone of the story. Some help you survive the plot twist. Some walk with you through the hardest pages. Some make you laugh when the story feels too heavy. Some leave before the next chapter begins. And still, the chapter would not have been the same without them. That is the beauty of chapter friendships. They teach us that connection does not need permanence to be real. They teach us that endings can be gentle. They teach us that gratitude can exist beside grief. They teach us that people can matter deeply, even if they do not stay forever. And they teach us that letting go is not always losing. Sometimes, letting go is simply allowing a completed chapter to remain complete. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel for more deep psychology videos about relationships, emotional patterns, attachment, letting go, and self-awareness. Like this video, share it with someone who is grieving a friendship that changed, and write in the comments, have you ever had a chapter friendship that still means something to you? Thank you for watching. And remember, the end of a friendship does not mean it failed. Sometimes,